Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head over to England once again, and we're going to have a look at yet another of the beers that was very kindly sent to me by my good friend Adam over at Mersey Beers. So massive shout out and thank you to him once again for making this review possible. Make sure you check out the link to his channel in the video description below. It centres mainly around different beer themed live streams. He's already got one up there where it's different beers and cheeses paired together, and he's got some really interesting ideas earmarked for the future, so I'm looking forward to seeing those videos come out, and hopefully I can contribute a little bit to those live streams over the next little while. And you probably will see Adam on my channel at some point in late January. We are going to meet up in either Edinburgh or Glasgow at the start of December, at the end of December, start of January, something like that. So we'll see if we can do a Meet the Blogger segment with him, and maybe we'll do some out and about videos at different places in Glasgow or Edinburgh. So really looking forward to that, and maybe some of the other guys from England might join us for that as well. So we'll need to see how that goes actually, but that should be a really fun time actually. But in the meantime, do make sure you check out Adam's channel. He was very generous and sent me a lot of different beers, both from local breweries and from other ones across England, and I'll need to return the favour with some Swedish beers for him, and maybe we can do a kind of Swedish beer featurette live stream on his channel at some point, and he and I can review the beers together. We'll maybe do something like that. But yeah, that's something that I really do look forward to actually. But yeah, go and check out his channel, lovely guy, and check out that link in the description below. But for this review, we are going to check out one of Adam's local breweries in Liverpool. We're going to the city centre for this one, and this is another brewery that I have never had anything from before, but they come highly recommended, of course. For this review, we are going to take a look at my first beer from Carnival Brewing Company. This one is called We Are Diamonds. It comes in at 6.1% ABV, and this is an IPA hopped with Simcoe, Amarillo and Equinox, so it should be pretty nice. Adam also included a stout beer. There is an interesting imperial stout that he's given me from these guys as well, so you'll see that video a little point later, but of course we do need to review the IPAs fairly quickly so that they stay in good condition. But yeah, very curious to see how this one turns out, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this beer as well. This one should hopefully be very nice. I've had some other very nice beers from Adam so far out of the local breweries. When it comes to Liverpool, the brewery that I was familiar with first was Mad Hatter, but they're bust now of course. But yeah, we've had some beers from Love Lane so far. We also had Black Lodge and one or two others as well. But this is another brewery that Adam said came at very highly recommended. I do need to try some Top Rope at some point too, so I'll need to speak to Adam about getting some of those at Christmas time as well, and I'll take him some Swedish beers and get him some Scottish things and stuff as well. But yeah, definitely looking forward to this one. It should make for a very interesting review. I've been impressed with the standard of the Liverpool beers that I've had so far, so fingers crossed this is another good one, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this beer as well. So let's see how we get on then. As always with my reviews, I'll tell you a bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I'll do in the future from Carnival Brewing Company. Very first time I'm trying one of their beers, as I said. There's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the English beers that I've reviewed for you. That's being added to fairly regularly because we're getting a good selection over here in Sweden these days. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Carnival Brewing Company then, on to my brewery notes. So as I've mentioned to you already, Carnival Brewing Company are based in Liverpool in the city centre, and they were founded back in 2018 by Dom Hope Smith and Ada Burke. So the pair apparently met through a mutual friend at a charity carnival, hence the name of the brewery. But Dom had been a home brewer for a number of years, and then Ada tried some of his beers and suggested that he made them more widely available, and this just really kind of stuck in in Dom's mind actually. But then they started homebrewing together in Dom's kitchen, and then they formed a company officially and moved into Adie's garage. In 2019 they then moved to the King Edward Rise in the city centre, and this was where they started their own brewery, and they refurbished this whole kind of premises, and they started with an output of around 3,000 litres of beer per week. They now also have a tap room on site that opens up Friday to Sunday, and it's got 12 lines, so you'll get mostly their beers, but I think there are one or two kind of guest lines in there as well. And as of October 2020, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced around 50 different beers actually. So they have been, when you consider how young they are from moving into this bigger brewery in 2019, 50 different beers is a fairly strong output actually. You know, they've done quite a lot. That's at least maybe one beer every 2 weeks or something like that, when you consider it's only 2019. That they've had this bigger capacity. So yeah, a fairly prolific brewery, these guys, and like I say, they are highly regarded in the Liverpool craft beer scene actually, and that was the main reason why Adam wanted me to review one of their beers. But yeah, that was all I was really able to find out about these guys. A very young company, so I'm sure we will review more beers from these guys in the future, and we'll be able to add more onto the notes at some point soon. But I'm guessing probably what Adam and I can do at some stages, we'll film an out and about video there at places like Blacklodge and Love Lane across Liverpool. Maybe we can do some Meet the Brewery segments with these guys as well actually. That would be a really fun thing to do. But yeah, that's all I can really tell you, as I said, about Carnival Brewing Company just now. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can of course check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all the different beers that they've done. So yeah, let's get on and have a little look at this beer then. So I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork before we open it up. As you can see, it's quite a simple style of art, but you get this in a lot of these New England IPAs, and it does look it does look very, very nice. But there you can see the Carnival Brewing Company symbol there, which is quite nice. I do like that idea. They met at a carnival, so that's what they named the brewery after. I think that's pretty cool. This one was canned on the 11th of August 2020, so it's been in the can about six, maybe 7 weeks by the time I'm reviewing this one for you. So it should still be in pretty good condition. Yeah, We Are Diamonds IPA, 6.1% ABV. I think this one is a New England style actually, but we know these hops, Simcoe, 11 to 12% alpha acid. Depending on what style of IPA it is, it can change quite dramatically. In a New England IPA, lovely soft creamy kind of passion fruit, a bit more of an oily passion fruit when it comes to West Coast IPAs, and then you get some lovely red fruity notes out of it in black IPAs. Amarillo is your old school oily orange hop, one of the original three high alpha acid hops, along with Citra and then Simcoe that we've just mentioned, and then Equinaut is that lovely kind of limey leaning hop as well. I think that was about 13 or 14% alpha acid compared to the 11 or 12 that you'll get for Simcoe and Amarillo. 440ml can, this one should be very nice, but let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting then. Very curious to see what this beer has in store for us, and once again a massive thank you to Adam for making this review possible. Oh, this actually looks a little bit more West Coasty on first glance. Yeah, oh, is this going to be a West Coaster? Curious about this. Barley, gluten, wheat and oats. Ah, so it does say it contains wheat and oats, so maybe it's a New England, but it looks very, very clear for a New England IPA. Interesting. We'll probably need to talk about exactly what kind of IPA this is in the video then, but I think we've got about 2/3 of the beer in the glass at the moment, and that's enough to do the appearance and the aroma. But yeah, as you can see with this beer, this is poured. It actually has poured a very, very clear, it's almost a little bit like a kind of Pilsner colour, this one, and that was not what I was expecting at all from this beer. So we'll pour a little bit more into it later on and just see. Let's just sugar this up and make sure, because if it's got oats and wheat in it, let me just see. No. Yeah, there is a little bit of natural haze to this one, but yeah, maybe it is going to be more of a... We'll just need to see what we expect from this one. I'm not sure about this. I'm not sure about that. Yeah, oats, it says oats and wheat in the ingredient, but yeah, it's a very, very clear looking IPA, this one. So yeah, I think it's fair to describe this beer as a kind of rich golden straw kind of colour. The head on this one is about between 1/2 and 2/3. There's a nice kind of creamy white colour to it, 1 or 2 big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of that head there, but you know, overall it does look pretty damn nice actually. And as I say, a lot of, there's a nice little bit, there is a bit of a kind of natural haze to this one, but this one definitely looks more like a kind of West Coasty type IPA than it does in New England. Obviously you expect the New Englands to be a lot more hazy than this, although I have come across ones that are a little bit kind of more transparent, if you like. So yeah, it looks, it does look very, very nice, I have to say. So yeah, curious to see how this one turns out. This isn't what I expected, and as I say, this piques my interest a little bit because I was expecting a New England IPA from this. So yeah, let's have a wee look at this one. But in fairness, I did say to Adam I wanted something more, I wanted a couple of West Coasters as well, so maybe that's what he's done here. I'm not sure exactly what his motive behind this exact beer would be, but I know he wanted me to try this brewery. So yeah, let's have a look at the aroma of this one then and see how we get on. Oh, wait a second, yeah. Yeah, this one, it's definitely got more of a kind of West Coasty type malt base to it from what I can smell. You can smell a nice sort of, you get a nice little bit of a kind of white bready note out of this beer straight away. You can smell a little bit of the thicker kind of wheaty notes, and you can smell just a little bit of the oaty creaminess, but for me, this beer comes across as quite biscuity. Yeah, and it's interesting because the malty side of this beer almost comes across as a little bit German in some ways. So I do wonder, are they using German malts in this beer? Could be a little bit of Maris Otter, that might be the other thing. Doesn't say exactly what malts were used in the base for this one, but I was able to find out that Simcoe is used as the early edition hop, so it should have a nice bit of spice to it. Simcoe can give you a really interesting spicy character if you use it as an early edition hop, and then the dry hopping is a 33 mix of the 3 that you see on the can, the Simcoe, Amarillo and Equinault. But yeah, the malt base in this beer, as I say, it's quite bready. It does have a little bit more of a kind of almost West Coasty type vibe to it with the little English touch. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a bit of Maris Otter in here. There's just something very, very familiar about that. That kind of, it's got that white bready quality to it, but there's a little bit of a grainy wholemeal type bready quality as well. Wee bit of a more bread crusty kind of thing, a little bit of a toastiness to the beer, but you've got a nice McVitie's digestive biscuity quality for me. There might be a little bit of a straight up kind of caramel, almost honey, caramel wafery type thing to this beer too. I think that really summarises the malty side of the beer for me, to be honest with you. A mix of kind of white and whole grain bread, Brita bread crust, a little bit of a sweet caramel, some McVitie's digestive biscuits, and maybe just a little touch of that kind of honey caramel wafery sort of thing. Maybe 1 or 2 kind of woody undertones in there as well, but it definitely, to me, it strikes me, it does have a little bit of an English IPA character to it, I think, in the aroma, and so that's just some of the grainy bread, and if there is Maris Otter in here, which I suspect there might be, that would kind of make sense. You do get a few, you can smell a little bit of the bitiness from the wheat almost, and you do get a little bit of the smoothness. With oats, you can really smell a little bit of that kind of smoothness, but I would wonder, it almost comes across as being a little bit more oatmealy rather than anything else. The oaty notes you get out of this are a little bit more kind of oatmealy, and that contributes to the whole bready vibe that you get out of the malt base of this beer. So this one's quite interesting in that sense. It does come across in some ways as having a bit of that German bready character, so I wouldn't be surprised if there is a German base malt in here, but then they might be using the English malts on top of that, like Maris Otter, as I say. But yeah, it's got a wee bit of that kind of English West Coasty type, English IPA / West Coast American IPA type vibe to the malt base. So this one has piqued my curiosity. This beer's got me thinking, and I like beers that make me think a little bit. On the hoppy side of things, then, you do get a nice big bit of floral aromaticity and a touch of spiciness out of this one. Like I said, if you use Simcoe as the early edition hop, you are going to get that more kind of big spicy floral aromatic note out of it. There's a little bit of lighter grassiness in there, there's a wee touch of earthiness, like I said, and yeah, the green side of the hops for me, it's really a floral aromatic thing, but the grassiness is a bit lighter, and you've just got a wee tiny touch of earthiness in there, but the fruitiness is where this beer really starts to kind of come alive. So for me, you do get a wee bit of that oily passion fruity note from the Simcoe, and it does come across as fairly kind of soft in this one, but you do get the pungency, you get the nice pungency from the Simcoe in there as well. If the Simcoe is the backbone hop of this beer, then that's not surprising. So you get a little bit of that more pungent passion fruit, but at the same time you get a bit more of a kind of juicy, oily note out of it. I get a wee bit of a kind of apricot-y pear thing out of this one. Yeah, sometimes that's a wee complexity you can get from Simcoe. As I say, Simcoe's always been kind of fairly straight up to me, passion fruit, but I think I've noticed that Simcoe's a little bit more of a complex beast in recent times, let's just say that. But you do get a nice oily orange from this one. That's the Amarillo, that comes out further towards the front of the nose, and you also get the equinox lime, and it's quite a bright lime almost that you get out of this one. And I think the equinox and the Amarillo in this one, they almost kind of they've got a little bit of a kind of interaction kind of going on there. The oranges and the limes, I think, kind of join together quite a lot in this beer. So it's a really interesting combination of things that's going on the fruity side of things. So the passion fruity note, you do get a bit of the pungency to it. It gets a little bit lighter and apricot-y and things in there as well, but nice oily orange and a wee touch of a kind of limey character to the beer as well. But overall, a really, really interesting beer, this one, I think, in terms of its aroma profile, and it's certainly piqued my interest because of the different things that are going on here. But let's have a taste of this now and see how we go on. Take a bit of time to mull over that aroma. That's always half the experience when it comes to craft beer, but I'm very curious about this. So this is the We Are Diamonds 6.1% IPA from Carnival Brewing Company in the city centre in Liverpool. Let's get stuck into this one. Slàinte Skål. Oh yeah, that's definitely more, that's definitely more of a West Coasty beer. Yeah, that's a very nice IPA, I will say that. I can see why Adam wanted me to have a go at this one. This definitely strikes me as being more it's almost, you do get elements in New England out of this one. In fairness, you do get some of the smoothness out of this, and I mean, you are getting more and more of these kind of hybrid type beers recently that have both, and they just call them IPAs. You do get elements out of New England. You do get elements of that New England type with this one, but I think this one, it just comes across to me as being a little bit more West Coasty. You can see since I've put the last of the beer, and you can see it has got a little bit more kind of hazy as we've put more in there. Obviously there has been a little bit of sedimentation with this one, but you can see it has got gradually more hazy as we put it in. But again, the level of haze that you get out of this could be, you know, you can get West Coast IPAs that have that level of haze to them as well. But I think the main thing, we can debate about what exact sub-style this beer is going to be. The question is it a nice beer, and is it a good IPA? Absolutely, on both counts. And I have to say, yeah, it's now that we have this, you do get more of the, you can get more of the oaty smoothness in this beer and the flavour than you do in the aroma. The oats are definitely more obvious in this. But it definitely does have a wee bit of a more West Coasty leaning sweetness for me. This one, some of the biscuity notes and some of the breadiness that you get out of this beer, it is a little bit reminiscent of like the Crystal and the American two-row malts that you'd find in the things over there. But on top of that, it has the kind of smoothness of the New England IPA. So it's almost like it's got a West Coast backbone, but then it's got a New England kind of, it's got a New England smoothness sitting on top of it. This is a really interesting one for me, like I say. So let's try and just break down the flavour then, and we'll talk about that a little bit more as we go. So middle third of your palate, back third of your palate, you can feel that nice kind of bready base to the beer. It's a mix of a white bread. I think it's a bit more of a white bread in the middle of the palate. Then as you move gradually towards the back of the palate, it develops a little bit more of a kind of wholemeal, brown bready sort of vibe to it. You can feel on that back third of your palate that it just thickens up in terms of breadiness as well, which is really quite nice, I have to say. So you do get a little bit of a kind of you do get a little bit of a kind of breadiness, a thicker breadiness coming out of this one, but you've got some really nice. You can feel that there's just a little touch of bitiness to the wheat, but the wheat actually comes across as very smooth in this one. But yeah, slightly thicker bready notes on the back third of your palate, and as you move further forward from that, you can feel as you move into the middle third of your palate, it just goes down a little bit. It just goes down into the middle third of your palate a little bit, and then you start to you can feel on top of that bready note that the beer has, and it's more of a white bread, like I say, in the middle of your palate. You do get that kind of oaty smoothness to the beer as well. So the oats are more apparent in the middle third of your palate, the wheat is more apparent in that back third of your palate. So that's definitely an interesting point about this. And I don't get so much bread crust out of this beer. I think, like I say, white bread is the backbone in the middle third, and then a more wholemealy, grainy type bread is the backbone in the on the back third of your palate. So yeah, this is an interesting one. I like this beer. I will say that straight away, and it has me thinking, as I said. But I will say, this beer, for me, does have an element of the kind of West Coasty, brown sugary sort of thing going on. So if you go on top of that oaty, that slight oaty smoothness that the beer has, and I will say the oatiness in this beer is not massively thick. Let's just say that it's almost just like a kind of slick layer on top of that, but you do get a nice little bit of a sweet caramel right in the centre of your palate, and as you move out further across from the middle of your palate, you'll get more of a kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of thing out of this one. So yeah, the brown sugars for me are definitely a bit more West Coasty, and it was the aroma of those that really made me think of, the US two-row and crystal malts. Actually, the brown sugars in this definitely do remind me a little bit of that, but I wouldn't be surprised, since it's an English brewery, I would not be surprised if it's Maris Otter that they're using in this one, and that would explain some of the more grainy, bready notes that this beer as well. We can speculate about the malt base, it's always interesting to do that, but yeah, I will say I like how this one comes across. I would say the malt base is usually what determines what kind of IPA it is, and I think I'd be curious to know what they would say about it themselves, but to me it seems like a kind of hybrid. It seems as if it's trying to find the middle ground between the West Coast and the New England, but I personally think there's a bit, the West Coast character that this one has, just the kind of lighter breadiness that the beer has, and the kind of more brown sugary leaning thing that it has, that is a little bit more prominent for me than the oaty and the wheaty notes you get out of this one. They take a little bit more of a back seat by comparison, I would say. So yeah, definitely a hybrid IPA, but I think there's a bit more West Coasty character in this one. To be honest, it doesn't quite have the bitterness that you might expect of a West Coaster though, so again, that's another thing in the New England's favour, if you like. But good beer regardless, and as I say, we can debate the style all day, but it's a good beer, that's the main thing. So yeah, hoppy side of things then. Back corners of the palate, there is a wee bit of earthiness there. As you move further forward along the side of the palate, you do get a nice big floral aromaticity out of this one, and it does have a wee bit of that spicy character. As I said earlier, Simcoe will give you a good little bit of spice if you use it as an early edition hop. It's a bit of a it's something that not a lot of people associate with Simcoe, but I learned that from the 50/50 series by OO Brewing in Gothenburg here in Sweden. And they've got that series, and it's great. It teaches you a lot about different hops. So you've got a lovely kind of spicy floral aromaticity to this one, and that lingers on the side of the palate there as you go further into the aftertaste. As you go round the front curve of the tongue, you get a little bit of a lighter grassy note out of this one, and then behind the front curve of the palate on that front third of your tongue, that's where you've got the nice oily bubble, where the fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer. And for me, this one is pretty damn nice, I have to say. So yeah, if you move towards the back of that front third of your tongue, you'll get the Simcoe notes out there, and it's quite an oily passion fruit you'll get there. But as you move further forward, it does kind of soften out a little bit. You get a wee bit of a mango, a kind of apricot-y type note to it as well. Maybe even some perry esters coming out of it, which is quite interesting. I've never noticed this level of complexity that Simcoe can have, and I think the reason that it comes across that the Simcoe comes across as a bit more oily in this beer is one, because there's a bit of a brown sugary backbone to the beer, and I've always found that Simcoe, when you've got a more brown sugary leaning malt base, it does come across as a bit more oily rather than kind of creamy and juicy, if that makes sense. But you've also got the Amarillo in here, and Amarillo for me is one of the most oily hops you can get. It just has a really oily thing about it, but as you reach the front half of that front third of your palate, that's when you get the big oily citrusy zesty notes from Amarillo coming out. It's got that big orangey thing there, and as you move towards the very front of the tongue, almost on the front tip of your tongue, that's where the Equinaut and the lime, the big kind of limey characters come out there. The lime in this one, it does have a wee bit of zestiness, and it adds a bit of zestiness to the grassy part of the beer on the very tip of your tongue, but at the same time, as you move further into the aftertaste, I think it gets progressively more juicy. The limey notes become a little bit progressively more juicy in my mind. So yeah, I really like how this whole thing goes together. Actually, it's a lovely beer, this one, and I would be very curious to try a few other things and a few other styles from these guys as well. But yeah, this is an IPA that has got me thinking, and there's quite a few elements of this one that you need to think about. It's definitely a hybrid IPA for me. I'd be reluctant to place this in either the West Coast or the New England category, but I would say I think it leans a little bit more towards the West Coasty side of things for me, but there are New England elements to it. That's just my impression of it, but it's a lovely IPA, and that's the main thing that you should take away from this one, and the hop blend in this works very, very well. So yeah, yeah, it's got a good balance between the tropical fruits and the more kind of citrusy, zesty kind of things, but the fruity side of this beer for me is fairly oily, I would say. So yeah, awesome stuff. So in terms of the mouthfeel then, that's where we should go next. What would we say about this? Yeah, I would say that this beer is fairly mid-bodied. It's kind of at the top end of mid-bodied in fairness, because of the oily character that it has. Carbonation is quite smooth, but there is an element of crispness in there as well. What would we say? I think overall it's quite an oily leaning IPA, this one. But at the same time, it does have a wee bit of that smoothness you expect of the New England. This is really what's got me about this one. When it comes, I think, yeah, it's quite an oily leaning IPA, this one, and for me, as I say, the style, stylistically, this is really a bit of a hybrid, but I think it really leans more West Coasty, to be honest with you. In terms of IBUs, I think this one's got to be at least 50. I do get a good little bit of bitter bite out of this one. This one has to be 50, maybe even 60 IBUs at a push, actually. There is a bit more bitterness to this one for me, and it could be the spiciness of the Simcoe. Like I said, when you use Simcoe as an early addition hop, it gives you a lot more kind of spiciness and things than it does if you use it as a flavour aroma hop in the last half hour of the boil. But yeah, definitely got a nice little bit of bitterness there. I want to see 60 IBUs, maybe, yeah, I think 60 IBUs is a good estimate for this one. So it does have a wee bit more of the West Coasty bitterness. The malt base, like I said, it's got a nice kind of almost crisp, smooth bready backbone to it, and the breadiness is the backbone for me, but then you've got a wee bit of the oaty and wheaty kind of notes coming out of the beer, which I think is quite interesting. So it does have a wee touch of that New England smoothness, but the sweetness on the malty side of things is a little bit more West Coasty again. I suspect Maris Otter in this one, but it does remind me of the kind of crystal and American two-row malts, and the fruits for me are quite oily in this as well, which again is more leaning towards the West Coasty side of things. But yeah, I think it's fair to describe this as a hybrid IPA, but for me there's a bit more West Coasty character to this one. The bitterness, the breadiness in the malt base, and the kind of brown sugary notes, as well as the oily fruits. There's 4 things in there for me, whereas on the New England side of things you've just got a bit of oaty kind of wheatiness for me. So from West Coast wins 4-1 over New England in this case for me. But the main question, as I say, should always be, is it a good beer? And the answer with this one is overwhelmingly yes. I really like this one, and I would be curious to try a few more of their IPAs. Actually, I'd love to see one. I would love to know what they described this beer as stylistically. I don't think it said, I think it just said IPA American when I had a little quick look on Untappd earlier. Yeah, I would love to know what how they would interpret this one. But for me, it's a lovely beer, and I would like to try one from them that they would say, yeah, this is a West Coast American, this is a New England American. I'd love to see that, because this one, I think it's and then see where this one fits on the spectrum. But yeah, this is a brewery. This one has kind of piqued my interest in this brewery. So probably we'll need to talk to Adam again about about another box at some stage. But yeah, we'll need to figure that out later. But I've really enjoyed reviewing this one for you, and I hope that you guys have enjoyed my take on it as well. I'd love to film a meet the brewery segment with these guys, and hopefully Adam and I can go along and do an out and about tasting video at some stage as well at the at Carnival Brewery. That would be awesome. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Thank you once again to Adam from Mersey Beers for making this review possible. Check out the link to his channel in the video description below. Check out my social media, and please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Carnival Brewing Company as well. Do let me know some other kind of Liverpool area breweries that I should check out. But yeah, you will see a lot of those reviewed on Adam's channel, I would think, and we'll see about getting more of those to review for you here in the near future. But thank you again for watching, and I hope you guys enjoyed this one. This was the We Are Diamonds, an IPA coming in at 6.1% ABV from Carnival Brewing Company in the city centre in Liverpool. Massive thank you to Adam, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Slàinte, skål, cheers.